I recently read a study that completely changed how I think about sexual positions and female pleasure. The research looked at which positions were most likely to help women reach climax. And I have to tell you, some of the findings really surprised me. After reading the study, I did something a little unconventional. I invited 7 of my closest friends over for wine one evening, and we had one of those deep, honest conversations about sex that women have when we feel safe and comfortable. I wanted to know if their experiences match what the research was saying. And you know what? They did almost perfectly. So today I'm sharing with you what science says about the best positions for helping a woman reach climax, what my friends confirmed from their own experiences, and at the end I'm going to tell you about the position that surprised everyone, including me, because there's one position that most women in the study did not climax from. But here's the twist. It's actually my favorite, and I'll explain why that is. I'm Dr. Emma Blake, your trusted men's health advisor. We're getting into some honest conversation today about what actually works for female pleasure based on real research and real women's experiences. All right, let's talk about the first position that both the study and my friends confirmed works consistently for reaching climax. Standard missionary with a pillow underneath her hips. Now, when I brought this up with my friends that evening, every single one of them nodded. One of them, Sarah, she's been married for 15 years. She said this is her go-to position when she really wants to finish. And she explained exactly why. When you're on top of a woman and she has a pillow elevating her hips, you're creating the perfect angle for dual stimulation. Let me break down what that means. First, there's the emotional piece. You're face to face looking into each other's eyes. That creates incredible emotional connection. And for women, emotional connection amplifies physical pleasure. It's not just about the mechanics, it's about feeling desired, wanted, seen. When she can look into your eyes, that intensifies everything. But here's the scientific part that the study highlighted. When you're on top and you're grinding forward and back, not just thrusting in and out, but grinding, you're hitting her clitoris. When you're able to stimulate her clitoris while penetrating her at the same time, you're creating dual action stimulation. She's getting clitoral stimulation, which is how most women reach climax, plus penetration. When you get both of those together, it's incredibly powerful. The study showed that women were significantly more likely to reach climax when the man was on top with a pillow underneath, grinding against the clitoral area. And my friend Jessica confirmed this. She's always been really direct, and she said the grinding motion is absolutely key. She said most guys think it's about thrusting harder or deeper, but it's actually about that forward pressure and friction against her clitoris. The pillow changes everything because it tilts her pelvis upward. This creates better contact between your pubic bone and her clitoral area when you grind forward. Without that elevation, you might be at an angle where there's barely any clitoral contact at all. One of my friends described it perfectly. She said, when a man understands that grinding motion, when he stays deep and rocks his hips forward, creating that pressure, that's when she can actually finish. Otherwise, she's just feeling penetration, which feels good, but it's not going to get her there. So, when you're in this position, remember, it's not about speed or depth. It's about maintaining that contact and pressure against her clitoral area while you're inside her. That combination is what the research showed creates consistent results. The second position that the study highlighted, and my friends absolutely confirmed, is when a woman is on top of you leaning forward. When I mentioned this position, one of my friends actually laughed and said, this is the only position where she has control over exactly what she needs. And that's really the key here. In this position, she's facing you, leaning toward you, and there's that face-to-face connection again. But what makes this position so effective is that she has complete control over the angle, the depth, and most importantly, the clitoral stimulation. She can grind against your pubic bone in exactly the way that feels best to her. She can adjust the pressure, the speed, the rhythm, everything is in her hands. And that control is incredibly powerful for helping her reach climax. Now, I know some men aren't huge fans of this position because they feel like they're not doing anything, but here's what my friend said makes it even better. When she's on top of you and leaning forward, grab her hips on each side and guide her movements. Pull her into you with intention. One of them said, when a man does this, when he grabs her hips and pulls her down onto him, it completely changes the experience because even though she's on top, he's still actively participating. He's showing her that he wants her, that he's engaged, that he's not just lying there passively, that take charge energy, even when she's in the dominant position, taps into something primal. We want to feel desired and led, even when we're technically in control. When she's leaning forward, her clitoris is making contact with your lower abdomen or pubic bone. As she rocks back and forth, she's creating that same dual stimulation, clitoral contact plus penetration. And because she controls the movement, she can find exactly the right angle and pressure that works for her specific body. The study pointed out something important here. Every woman's anatomy is slightly different. The distance between the vaginal opening and the clitoris varies. When she's on top, she can adjust to make sure she's getting what she needs. That's why this position showed such high success rates for climax. You can also enhance this with your hands. Touch her breasts while she's moving. Run your hands down her sides. Pull her down for a kiss. Those touches make all the difference because they keep that connection strong and show you're engaged. Now, here's where the conversation with my friends got really interesting. Because while these two positions are proven to help women reach climax, they all agree that they can get repetitive over time. And this is important. Variety matters. Not every position is going to give her the same intensity of climax, but variety keeps things exciting. It keeps the fire burning, the spontaneity alive. When you confidently move her body into different positions, that unpredictability is incredibly attractive. Sarah said she loves when her husband changes positions during sex because it shows confidence. It shows he knows what he's doing, that he's in charge, that he's not just going through the motions. That spontaneity keeps her attracted to him. Those two positions create connection and consistent results. But women also want passion, intensity, and variety. We want that unexpected moment, that position that feels raw and exciting. So use those two positions as your foundation when you want to help her finish. But don't be afraid to mix in other positions earlier for excitement and passion. Start with something more intense, then transition into one of these proven positions when you're getting close. Now, before I tell you about the surprising position from the study, I need to talk about something that impacts everything we've discussed, blood flow. Because no matter what position you're in, if blood isn't flowing properly to the genitals, arousal and climax become much more difficult. Both men and women have erectile tissue that needs to engorge with blood for maximum pleasure and sensation. For women, proper blood flow to the clitoris and vaginal tissue creates the engorgement that increases sensitivity. When blood flow is restricted, whether from stress, poor cardiovascular health, or declining nitric oxide production as we age, it's harder to become fully aroused and reach climax. Nitric oxide is a vasodilator, which means it helps relax and dilate blood vessels so blood can flow more easily. More blood flow to the genitals means better sensitivity, stronger sensations, and more intense experiences. This applies to both men and women. When blood flow is optimal, everything works better. So while technique and position matter, don't overlook cardiovascular health, stress management, and circulation. All right, now here's the part that surprised me and made for the most interesting part of our conversation that evening. The study looked at which position was least likely to result in female climax. And when I read this, I was honestly a little shocked because this is actually my favorite position. Are you ready? It's doggy style. According to the research, this position had the lowest rate of women reaching climax. And when I mentioned this to my friends, 6 out of 7 immediately agreed. They said, yes, that position feels intense, it's exciting, it's passionate, but they rarely, if ever, finish in that position. But here's where I differed from both the study and most of my friends. This is actually my favorite position, even though I don't usually climax from it. Let me explain why that is and why this is actually an important lesson. The study identified 2 reasons why women are less likely to climax in this position. First, there's no face-to-face connection. She's facing away from you, not seeing your eyes, your expression, your body, and connection matters for amplifying pleasure. Second, and this is the bigger reason, her clitoris isn't getting stimulated naturally in this position. The study showed that most women need clitoral stimulation to reach orgasm. When you create dual stimulation, clitoral and internal, that's when women reach climax most consistently. In doggy style, the clitoris doesn't get any attention unless you reach around manually. So, scientifically, it makes sense why fewer women climax in this position. But here's what I told my friends, and here's what I want you to understand. Just because a position doesn't lead to climax doesn't mean it's not incredibly enjoyable. For me, this position provides something different. It's primal, it's intense, it feels raw and passionate. There's a psychological element to it that I absolutely love, even though I know I'm probably not going to finish from it. And this is the key insight I want you to take away. Sex isn't just about the climax, it's about the entire experience, the variety, the different sensations, the emotional journey. Some positions are perfect for creating that intense, passionate energy. Others are proven to help her reach climax. When you understand what each position offers, you can use them strategically. So don't avoid doggy style just because the study says women are less likely to climax from it. Use it for what it offers, that intensity and primal excitement. Then transition to one of those science-backed positions when you're ready to help her finish. One of my friends said her partner does exactly this. He'll start with something exciting and intense, build that passion, then move into missionary or her on top top when they're getting close. He understands that different positions serve different purposes. Here's the bottom line from both the research and real women's experiences. The two positions most likely to help her reach climax are missionary with a pillow under her hips and woman on top leaning forward. Both create clitoral stimulation and face-to-face connection. The position least likely to result in climax is doggy style because it lacks both of those elements. But that doesn't mean you should avoid it. It offers intensity and variety that keep things exciting. Use those two proven positions as your foundation for helping her finish. Mix in other positions for excitement, passion, and spontaneity. Understand what each position accomplishes and use them intentionally. Start with passion, build connection. Finish with one of these science-backed positions that create the dual stimulation she needs. Try these insights the next time you're intimate and pay attention to how she responds. Notice the difference when you focus on clitoral stimulation and connection. Your intimacy is worth understanding, and knowing what actually works makes you a better, more confident partner. Thanks for watching.